Hello, everyone. I want to welcome you to this installment in June of our open house for MSc program. For those of you who are here attending in person, and for those who will be viewing it later on, we want to welcome you. Today, we will look at the applied aspects of the program. We have members of our teaching team here as well as alumni. And I'd like to introduce you to Dr. Kendra Ford, who is the MSc course leader. And Kendra will share more about the program and also introduce you to everyone on the team. So over to you, Kendra.
Thank you so much, Nick. And thank you, everybody, for taking time out of your day to join us for this open house. I see some familiar names and faces, so welcome for joining us again. And I see some who are joining us for the first time here in this open house, so welcome. As Nick noted, we're focusing a little bit more on the applied aspects of the MSc. We've really tried over these last several open houses to hone in on different areas of the program so that we can spend just a little bit more time just speaking to some of these unique aspects of the MSc program and what makes studying with Alef unique in comparison to other MSc programs that you might be seeing out there that are offering online programs within the areas of psychology or spirituality. Um, and today, this focus of application is really that bridging component that we emphasize in the program more towards the latter part of the MSc. And so, what that really means is we spend the first year settling into, the foundations of consciousness, the foundations of transformative psychology, and what that means personally, perhaps professionally. Um, and you might already come into the program with an idea of, how you plan to use the MSc after you graduate. Some people come into the program without a very specific idea. Either way, this first year is really about developing those foundations and kind of getting accustomed to what is transformative learning, how are we teaching, and how might that be different than perhaps other traditional models of education. Um, and this application being one aspect of that, which really we move into in the latter part of the second year. So once the first year gets established and you sort of have a sense of, the areas and the topics that we're working with within the program, how we're approaching education, that second year really moves into more of the skill building, both from a research sense. There's a year-long research design module that's happening where you're getting hands-on experience with the actual process of conducting research. And then there's the applied transformative psychology module, which Jessica is going to be speaking about today, as well as maybe some other aspects of just applications of the MSc in general. And that is, I would say, kind of like an incubator for developing those applied skills. So I won't say too much about that, but just signpost that because I know Jessica is going to go into more detail around that. And that really is sort of the focus of the second year is getting those a deep experiential understanding of the skills of being a scholar and a practitioner in the world with this type of MSc, with this type of content and experiential knowledge. And then, of course, in that third year is the dissertation year where students then take what they've learned in those first 2 years and apply it to an original research project, which is very exciting. And, there are a lot of students who come into the program without any previous research experience. And they find even though it can be challenging in that second year to kind of, you know, get a sense of what research is, by the time they're starting that third year, they feel prepared and ready to sort of hit the ground running with their original work. And then, of course, students then take what they've learned in the MSc well beyond graduation. And we have a couple of alumni here who will talk about their experience of being in the program and also perhaps what they're doing with their degree now. So there's a lot of structural things I could perhaps speak to that relate to the MSc, but I think maybe we'll sort of signpost that for the latter part of our time together today, so that we can really, spend some time and jump into, what does it mean to apply an MSc in transpersonal psychology, spiritual psychology, and consciousness studies. What does that look like? And how is that an asset to, various different environments where this work, this knowledge, this embodied wisdom can be brought into in a way that not only transforms, you as the individual sort of facilitating those spaces or writing about those spaces or conducting research within those areas, but how does that then create ripples, potential ripples of transformation out in the world, that potentially can have, a larger, perhaps a social impact. And I know, a lot of people come into this program not just with an interest of, how can I get a master's degree in psychology, but there's usually some sort of deep personal, passionate reason as to why someone might be interested in this type of degree. So I'm going to hand it over to Dr. Jessica Bachler, who's here, and she's going to really kind of take us into more depth around this understanding of application with the degree. So, welcome, Jessica.
Thank you, Kendra, and thank you, Nick, for setting the scene so comprehensively. And welcome to everybody. I would love for you to put a little something into the chat about your own backgrounds, because we can speak to this, yes, give you an overview in terms of what we're delivering, but I also, if possible, would love to feel into already how this is relevant immediately to your areas of work and your spheres of influence, wherever you feel you are doing your work in the world. So it really helps me to get a sense for who's in the room, where you are, and what kind of work you're doing. That would be really lovely. And whilst you're doing that, I'll say a little bit more. I'll go a little bit more into the applied side of things in terms of our MSc program, and then also more broadly speaking, as Kendra has said, in regard to how we can take transpersonal principles and translate them into action in the world. So as Kendra mentioned, within the MSc program in year 2, we have a module called Applied Transformative Psychology. And I steward this module together with a team of colleagues who are specialized in different areas, covering integrative medicine, covering areas to do with, now I'm thinking, who are my colleagues? Gosh, that's really funny. I've got a little brain blip. Kendra, quick. I can't believe it. But I'll carry on, and my colleagues will come back to me. Apart from integrative medicine, I also lead an option within that particular module on creativity. We have, this is really funny. I work with these people all the time. Transpersonal coaching is another, Javon. People who are basically taking applied angles on transpersonal practices and are translating them into action in a particular area of their field of work. And this module also has an overarching framework which tries to build linkages between transpersonal psychology and inner development and outer change. So how we show up in action in the world, and how what we work on the inside, the kinds of practices that we're exploring in year 1 of the degree program, how they translate into changes not only within ourselves, but between each other, so between self and other, and within wider fields, whether you see them in community contexts, those fields, organizational contexts, really a kind of variety of collective contexts, but also the more than human. So we look at how we show up in relation to the wider world, and we look at how we can interlink or understand the interlinkages between inner work and self-development, and what that means for the world at large. And not in a sort of way where we're saying we're working on ourselves in order to have a particular impact on the other or on the world at large, but rather in a way that helps us to see that no, we're part of this bigger and wider world. We're entangled with it, we're embedded in it. And that's really the transpersonal perspective, that's the depth ecological perspective that situates the self within these bigger fields, if you will, of humans, and then the more than human as well. So we look at all these different angles and lenses, and we explore them both overarchingly in the module and then through these specialized options with my colleagues. I mentioned that this sits in year 2 of the program, and we're, as a major assignment, we're looking at creating individual projects. So we're very much inviting you to consider, what is my work? What is it that I want to contribute to the world at large? And what does it actually mean to take transpersonal practices and principles and to translate them into action in my area of work? So the assignment in the module is very much focused on that. We invite you to create a project proposal which is situated in a particular context. So you choose a context. This could be a school, a hospital, a community project. It could be an agricultural project. It could be a land-based spirituality project. Lots of different there are lots of different potential, arenas of work that our students explore. And then people build out a project plan and then consider the ethical implications of that project plan, really with a particular eye on what does it mean to take transpersonal practices into these areas of work. Because transpersonal practices are evocative. They have a particular potential in opening us up, in enabling different points of view, in bringing the more than human into consideration. But they also come with risks around application, right? So when we invite people into altered states of consciousness, into states that open up from a sort of more egoic, constrained perspective to something that's loosening us up a little bit, that can be very playful and creative, but it can also become deeply evocative and can take people into a destabilized state. So we're concerned with how we manage that, how we create safe containers, and then also how we move from that more liminal space back into an ordinary space and help people to integrate those unusual states or altered states or non-ordinary states of consciousness. So that's just one example of what we need to consider when we work with transpersonal practices in various contexts. I'm going to take a quick look here at the chat to see what's there. People are mentioning trauma and eco-psychology. Thank you, Kendra. It's really funny. And obviously I work with my colleagues all the time. We've just finished the module and we were exploring a lot of different proposals that have come in, projects. So we've got someone doing ecotherapy and transpersonal counseling. That's lovely. Oh, a chief people officer, human resources. Amazing. That's great. Welcome to you as well. Fab. Yeah, freelance marketing. Wonderful. Background in medicine in Colorado. Amazing. That's lovely. Yeah, so that resonates a lot with the kinds of people you would meet on the program, the people who come and explore transpersonal, integrative, ecological practices in relation to their work. So people are journalists, artists, storytellers, teachers, healers and therapists and doctors of various kinds, and also people who work in human resources, in finance, law. We've had people who work with the army, people who work with the police forces in various places around the world, people who are working in agriculture, people who are working on food systems transformation. And some of the work that happens in Alef Trust also goes beyond the MSc program and goes into these applied fields, because, and that's kind of grown out of the Alef Trust's learning programs. Our community has grown gradually, and people are bringing their interests, and really our learning journeys and the courses we offer, and the kinds of communities of practice we now offer, have grown out of people's journeys and shared interests. So I'll just briefly mention that we also have a community of practice called Nurturing the Fields of Change, which is a holistic change facilitation community and program where people who've got that interest in bringing change or enabling change in the world come together and explore how we translate inner work into outer change. That's an open program where people, it's a membership program, people can join. It runs throughout the year. And alongside that, we've started convening a number of applied initiatives over recent years that go into fields like creativity and health, but also food systems transformation and how to work with land-based spirituality and enable changes in the ways we relate to food and farming, for example. So that's just a little bit about the different things that go on in the Alef Trust and that module in year 2 in particular. And of course, I think we're going to move into questions in a moment, but I'll pass back to Kendra first of all to then see where we take it from here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jessica. I'm going to pass it on to Fran now, who's going to introduce herself and also the alum who were present here today. So Francesca Hector is our community coordinator. She's also an alumni of the MSc program and a current PhD student. So she holds many roles here with us at Alef. So welcome, Fran.
Thanks, Kendra, and welcome everyone to this open house session. Really good to see you. Really good to hear a little bit about the work that you're doing and the ways of being in the world. This definitely resonates. So I'd just like to share a very brief insight into the Alef community, which is really at the heart of the MSc and at the heart of all our programs. It's an online program, and the relational dimension of the work that we're doing is certainly very important. And as Jessica shared, students join from very different backgrounds, very diverse backgrounds, and then go on to apply their multidimensional learnings in different fields, different areas. Transpersonal perspectives can be brought into the world in so many ways. And it's and sometimes you go in knowing how it's going to unfold, sometimes not, and there are always surprises along the way. And you also get to know other people in your cohort through the smaller tutor group meetings. Every cohort is divided into 4 smaller tutor groups in the same time zone, and working groups as well in the different modules, some group projects, the student faculty meetings. It's a very participatory ethos within Alef Trust, which students are invited to get quite involved in. And then there are the alumni hosted community gatherings, which are open to all, and our wider Nurturing the Fields of Change community of practice, which Jessica has already spoken to. So you'd be entering the MSc program, and that, of course, is the main focus of your time and attention, and knowing as well that it's held within a wider community of faculty, of students, and alumni, and as many opportunities to interact and participate as you've got the bandwidth for, really. So I'd just like to welcome two alumni of the programme who are here with us, Mary, Rita, and Elizabeth. Thank you so much for joining us. It's always lovely to see you. And I'd like to ask you to share a little about your experience on the MSc programme, like what was especially meaningful for you, and how this has helped you to step into where you are now. And I'd like to introduce yourself and start. Maybe Mary, Rita. That's okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Francesca. Hi, everyone. It's so lovely to be here with you. My name is Mary Rita, and since doing the MSc programme, I started my own practice called Mysterum, which was fully brought into being from doing the MSc programme. And when I started the MSc, I was a teacher. I was teaching drama in the Middle East. And I was just really curious about developing my knowledge and skills in transpersonal psychology in particular. I'd kind of skirted around it in my undergrad, and it just kept calling me back. And I finally listened to the call and started the program. And it's really, a game changer for me. It really changed my life, and that is not exaggerating. I think once I did the MSc program, I felt like I had the confidence, the language, and the credibility to kind of go out into the world with the way that I kind of already viewed the world, but I just now had something underneath that. And as I did each of the modules, I did the creativity, shamanic psychology, explored the Kabbalah. I'm kind of going back into it now. And there were so many different streams that brought together a real fascination for me with two things. One was liminal space, and the other was rites of passage. I just really loved this space in the world. And so I did my research at the time during my master's program on rite of passage through the pandemic, especially for teenagers. So teenagers that I was still teaching in the Middle East. And we used a multitude of different practices that were all connected to organic inquiry research, which in itself was an incredible experience to kind of be so sort of involved in the research and kind of with the other, kind of something that's kind of beyond human, and bringing in all of these different experiences. And from that research and from that experience with my co-researchers, I developed my model, which was Mysterum. And it really sort of anchors the three things that I love in life. One is creativity, the other is transpersonal psychology. And the final kind of bit for me was kind of going on to do a coaching certificate in Jungian coaching, that kind of gave me that vehicle that I felt I needed just to add at the end of the MSc program. And even now, I wear a lot of different hats in my life and in my profession. And the MSc, like everything that I learned there, underpins it all. I feel like I always return to kind of the frameworks, the values that I developed during those 3 years. And yeah, it's been a life changer, and all the community that I'm part of and all the people that I'm still in touch with. It really has been a wonderful experience, and I'm still developing as well. I'm still kind of learning and growing and hoping to look at different ways to bring that practice about. But so far I've done some workshops, some coaching and some retreats. So I'm just looking at how to build that forward. So yeah, that's me.
Yeah. Thank you, Mary Rita. I can just feel the energy bubbling within you and bubbling out into the world. That's great. And hand over to Elizabeth now. And just to say that after Elizabeth has shared, then a chance to ask any questions to the alumni as well. So over to you, Elizabeth.
Thank you, Francesca. Hello, everyone. So yes, Rita is very energetic. I like his presentation. Thank you. So my journey is quite different. So at the beginning, as of my career, I was a CPA. I was a chartered accountant. I did it during 20 years. And one day, as I was bored, so I decided to sell everything, and to work for international organization in aid development. So it was for United Nations, for European Commissions, and I travel a lot, as a financial expert, and then in capacity building and management and organization. And in parallel, I was studying traditions. I met also a lot of cases of corruption, and I started to ask me the question why. Why people act as they're acting. I didn't understand. So I started in parallel to study traditions, religions, or trying to understand how people are seeing the world, the way they construct their own world. And one day I saw that we have an MSc in Transpersonal Psychology, meaning that we can also study rationally, I would say, in an academic world, the traditions, the psychology of people. So it was really a real great discovery. So I started my MSc, and was very rational. I said, okay, it's academic world. And in fact, it was really the beginning of a journey I never expected. And it was amazing. So, and it was 4 years, because my mom passed away during this time. So it was 4 years. And during my dissertation was about retired people who decided to go abroad for their retirement, to live and I did it myself, because I wanted to experience this. So for the second time in my life, I sold everything, and I went to United States, and I really like California, so I stayed here during few months, and now I am in Los Angeles. So it's really a new life, a new culture, a new everything. I got my MSc in 2023. So, and meanwhile, I wrote a book on spiritual intelligence. I also personally explore my lineage, but I never asked my question. I was really asking question about how people see the world, but I never asked me how I am seeing the world. So what is my lineage? Where I'm coming from? And it was really a discovery. So, and I am an old lady, but still I'm discovering on myself. And the final question is what I'm doing in this world. What is real my place in this world? So it's a very messy, awaken a lot of different questions I never asked before. Really. And I really feel now more aligned with myself as a researcher, because I will go on to research, because as I work in the political area, I will go on my research on religion, politics, consciousness, and psychology, because it's really what I would like to understand more. I still have a lot of questions. It's a continuous research in transpersonal psychology. And it also opens the door to activism. And because when you ask what is your place in society, you also ask what should I do? As an activist. So it's a really opening the path to who you are exactly, what you want to do. It's go very deeper in such a question. It's very, very important. So this is my journey. It's not the end, it's only a path. I mean, it will go on, and I don't know what shape it will take. I mean, I really don't know. Thank you.
Elizabeth, and onwards into the unknown with a few more resources. So I just pass back to Kendra.
Thank you, Fran, and thank you, Elizabeth and Mary Rita, for sharing your experiences. I think we as faculty have a lot of questions too. I mean, I think that we too are constantly, in the space of research and inquiry and investigation with these topics, because it's as much as we learn, that learning creates more questions, right? And then we just continue to investigate deeper and deeper. And I think that the engagement of the faculty at that level is also what's helped our program grow over the last decade, because we're constantly staying in touch with what is the current research, what's currently being done in the world that's using these modes or methods of application, and what does that look like? How can we then create a resource within ourselves that then supports a resource within the students within the program, so that they can then take their own piece of it, right, and make it their own sort of contribution into the world. There's a couple of things I just want to note because I think this might be helpful. I I think it was maybe I think maybe Mary Rita, you were speaking to this this sort of piece around research and being able to both of you actually spoke to it, both Elizabeth and Mary Rita. But one of the things that I think that the program, in addition to the applications, but on the research side, the applications of the research side that it provides is a framework for being able to approach these more obscure or esoteric or spiritual topics within a framework that is scientific and scholarly, so that the work that gets produced from the students who graduate within the program, who complete a dissertation project, that work can be published out in the world and have credibility to it. So, we are a program that is focusing in these more spiritual topics, but we're also a very rigorous scholarly program that, alongside supporting personal and professional and theory development, we're also providing solid foundations in how do you approach this work in a way that is scholarly, and of course, when it comes to research, is empirical. So even though we might be using transpersonal methods where we're talking about intuition or body-based ways of knowing, right, which might kind of feel like it's not fully grounded, we, as a program, and of course, with all of the years of research that is within this field of transpersonal psychology and spiritual psychology and consciousness, we utilize really concrete, specific research skills so that you can, feel confident in the research that you produce. And also, if you're, wanting to do presentations on your work, that you feel that you can have that backing of credibility within what you're speaking to. And it just gives a language, right? It gives the ability to speak about your work in a way that perhaps somebody who doesn't know anything about your topic, right, can really connect to, because you have some language for it. So I think that was just a piece I wanted to highlight around the program. And I'd love to open it up to questions. And I'm going to hand it over to Nick to help facilitate the Q&A for the remainder of our time. So feel free, Nick, I'm going to hand it over to you. I'll let you introduce that.
Yeah, feel free, raise your hand, or if you feel more comfortable, just put it in the chat box and Yeah, someone on our team will be happy to respond to your request. It's okay also to unmute and just jump in. We can get a conversation started. Everyone's quiet.
Nick, can
Yes.
okay. The question that I have is about how the modules are structured. Okay, so I work full time, and I don't think I'm going to be able to. If a session needs to be at 3 in the afternoon, for example, will I be able to do that on my own time, or there are certain lectures that you require presence at a certain time?
One, yes, you'll be able to do it. We'll let Kendra go in more detail how the modules are structured.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a great question, Anna. So we are obviously an online program, and we do teach our webinars live, but we do not require that students attend those webinars, those taught webinars live. We recognize, I mean, our students are all over the world. Our faculty are also all over the world. So, we do orient our schedule around the UK working day, which means there might be a webinar that's at 10 a.m. UK time or 4 p.m. We usually kind of skip there sometimes are meetings that are happening kind of in that midday, but usually that's usually not a time when a lot of webinars are scheduled. So it's usually there's a 10 a.m. time, maybe a 9 a.m. time, and then, 4, 6, sometimes 8 p.m. UK time. Um, but all of the webinars are recorded, so students can watch them at their own convenience. There are a couple of meetings, one being the reflective requirement that's in year one. Those are required to attend live. And then, of course, if you're doing group projects and things like that or a presentation, then there's a requirement, obviously, to do that live as well. But when there are live requirements for these webinars or for these sessions, we gather your availability and then place you in a group where you've said you were available. So, we don't just sort of randomly put you in a group and then it's like, 2 a.m. your local time. We really work hard to ensure that students can attend those live sessions. Um, and maybe Elizabeth and Mary Rita, because it's often a question of like, okay, this is a part-time program. I've got, I've got a partner, I've got kids, I've got full-time work, I've got all that, whatever it is that you might be doing, or I travel or whatever it might be. What does that look like? Maybe Mary, Rita, and Elizabeth can speak to, how did you navigate, the part-time online format with, what was already, happening or the structure of your life. I think that might be helpful to hear. Whoever wants to jump in.
Yeah, I'm happy to jump in. Yeah, at the time, I was a full-time drama teacher, also teaching English as a second language and an English teacher. So had quite a big schedule. And of course, as many teachers, you take your work home. There's a lot of lesson planning. There's a lot of after work planning as well. And so what I found with the master's program is the flexibility and also the communication as well. So if you did have anything that you needed to discuss or you weren't able to be present for something, there was always your tutor that you could talk to and you could discuss things with. So I found that really useful. I always felt, even though, you're doing this online, I always felt like I was part of the program and there was always somebody available. There was a lot of things I couldn't actually attend live because I was in the Middle East at the time. So I had a different schedule, but I was always able to see the recordings, and it worked. It worked really well because of that flexibility and communication as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Anna.
Yes, it was the same for me. During this time, I was working in Africa in a mission but it was short-term mission. So I stay in Africa 1 month, I come back to Europe. So it's And Maria Rita is right. I mean, it was very, very flexible. It was also a question of structure. So I study also during the weekend. I mean, because during the week it was not possible. So it was, but I didn't remember a very specific problems doing and catching up each time. I mean, because it's a lot of research also for yourself. I mean, so you can organize yourself very quite easily. So between the module online and so it's feasible. And I start again with this organization because doing it online is very convenient for people like us traveling a lot. I mean, so.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
Hi, Sarah. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Yay, I'm so happy to be here. And I guess my question is, um, I'm just curious from the faculty and the alumni, like what are, in your opinion, like some of the most interesting like questions that are being asked in this field of like academic consciousness studies overall. Like I so appreciate how it feels like it's very individual in that like this work is going to be able to be integrated into so many different fields that we're all individually working in. And also I'm curious, like in the field as a whole, are there particular like lines of academic inquiry that you really see like that this field is kind of taking up and might really have big impact on how like we as humans understand our place in the world, like what are the areas of like most interest to y'all personally right now making change, if that makes sense as a question.
It makes great sense, Sarah. I'm just saying, who wants to jump in first? I think everyone's going to have a different area of focus.
I was going to see if maybe Jessica wanted to jump in
I
first.
can. Yeah, for sure, I can. And Kendra is right. We have our faculty, of course, come from many different areas of specialism and interest. So we all have our own sort of evolving bodies of work. My own is sort of in the intersection of creativity and embodiment, and inner development and systems change or social change. And that's evolved over the years. So I spent quite a few years in public health and in community arts projects, really exploring how creativity and embodiment make a difference to human health. And I was really immersed in community projects and working for public health initiatives here in the UK, where I'm based. And over the years, that's shifted more towards an interest in systems change and looking at this idea of inner development, how it's often called, but I prefer to look at it through more integrative lenses. So I prefer to talk more of integrative practice, or holistic human development, and how that interrelates with systems change. And that's quite a really rich topic that's evolving right now. And I don't know if any of you are following the things that are happening in a field that's emerging through the work of the Presencing Institute and other people who are constellated around that, and organizations in awareness-based systems change, where we're looking at not just the inner individual, but we're looking at the inner collective conditions that are either constraining or enabling what we can do together as human beings. And that's a super rich field. And I've become particularly interested in how we complement this understanding around our inner world and consciousness in relation to structural constraints, and power dynamics and asymmetries that play out in our systems in the world today. And I think there's a real gap still that I'm super pulled by and interested in exploring in relation to, yes, we can do inner work, and yes, we can do inner work together, but then there's still a jump into our systems that are constrained and stuck and not serving us, right? And if you look at the literature there's like, it's it's a hot topic for debate, how we bridge this inner-outer divide, which isn't really a divide, but when you look at our systems, my goodness, what's going on around the world today, I don't need to tell you. It's a crazy situation we're in. So consciousness and transpersonal psychology has got a huge role to play in that. Going down, if you think of the theory U, going down to the bottom of the U, down into that place of shared humanity, maybe beyond shared humanity, the shared ground of being, and then seeing how we can act from there. But that doesn't mean that all structural constraints and asymmetries and inequities just dissolve. So we also really need to look at the political dimensions that are at play here. And that for me is the question that I sit with and I grapple with the most in some of the work that I'm co-stewarding through Alef Trust and also in collaboration with colleagues at the Presencing Institute in that field of awareness-based systems change. Yeah, so that's my answer, and that's just one answer of many in the Alef Trust community. Does anybody else want to pick this one up?
Yeah, I was just thinking, I mean, our faculty are so diverse. And as you were speaking, Jessica, I was thinking about, the various different topic areas that our faculty are working with. I'm thinking about, we have a faculty who's focusing a lot of research on synchronicity and the various different ways in which that is experienced. We do have we have a couple faculty that do have some interest in the relationship between technology and human experience. And so they are going into some of these areas of what does that look like in relationship to AI. And we have faculty who focus on psychedelics, and that's where their research is oriented. And then I think even within these main interests that we have, we also have all of these sort of secondary areas that we have studied over the years, which really creates a very broad spectrum of knowledge and awareness. And you may not see it when you look at our faculty page, but we do also have a very large faculty who support dissertations. So in addition to the main faculty that are here, there's also a large faculty that also have all of their research interests that they're specifically focusing on. I could say briefly, just because of time, I want to save space for other questions. But my focus is more in the area of the relationship between feminine spiritualities and psycho-spiritual development and transpersonal psychology. I've even been more recently, I've really been looking at and investigating the experience of descent within the feminine spirituality, sort of understanding of psycho-spiritual and cyclical development, and that's really led to a lot of really interesting places that have then pulled on, what are the different histories and origin stories that we're each living within, and then how are those stories, affecting the way in which psycho-spiritual development is happening, and then subsequently how we then, people put themselves back together after they've gone through an experience where, perhaps the foundations that have been built sort of, crumble and then become something else. And that too has led me to look into, various different, structures of power dynamics and what that then looks like, and then how that affects the inner and outer relationships of the feminine and the masculine in the world, and what that means not only on an individual level, but what that means on a larger ecological, global structure, and perhaps even evolutionary level. So how these impacts and these various different histories that have sort of been constructed over thousands of years, how that's sort of impacting where we are today, and perhaps the challenges that we're experiencing as individuals and as collectives within the various different circles, right? Local communities, ideological communities, countries, global structures, etc. So there's many different ways and angles in which to look at that and to explore that feel, like there's just so much there that has not really been quite uncovered yet. And it draws, my work draws upon a lot of different interdisciplinary studies and foci. So yeah, I think I'll leave it at that.
Thank you, Kendra. To answer the question from Gemma, yes, it's possible to get either a postgraduate certificate or postgraduate diploma. We start everybody off on the master's track, and then you would communicate to us, to your personal tutor, the teaching team. Let's say it comes end of year one that you think you've gotten what you need from the program, and then they'll take care of the paperwork and everything that you can end there, or you could end at 2 years. So there are options that way. You can't stop and get a certificate and then jump back in and resume the program. So just keep that in mind. But yeah, you do have options. Anybody else?
Yeah, Nick, it may be on your website, but
Mhm.
it's because I'm kind of late to the party. It was the first open day that I took place. In terms of payment, do we have to pay upfront like every other master program in the UK, or will there be a payment plan?
There is a payment plan for everybody. It generally runs on a semester schedule. So when you see the full amount, we're not expecting that all
Mm.
when you're accepted in the program.
Mhm.
What is done when you're accepted into the program, we do require a £500 deposit that's non-refundable. That's to hold your place in the program. And then you will be billed by semester. So with the first semester that come due by August 31, the 500 you would already paid would be deducted from that first installment, and the next one would come February 1, and then subsequently in years 2 and 3, it would be the same schedule. Gemma.
I think Milan might have been before me, actually. No.
Oh, I'm sorry. For me, my apologies.
um, I'm just wondering whether my impression of the program feels about right. That it sounds from the way you're describing it that it almost offers a way to kind of deepen personal inquiry and kind of deepen personal practice, and to provide some kind of credibility and confidence behind that. And it sounds as if it's quite broad and can be self-defined, and it doesn't answer anything necessarily, but it kind of provides a bit of an incubator. Is my impression kind of about right?
Many ways, yes. I'll let Kendra go in more depth. Something that I do bring up a lot of applicants, because I'm usually the first person from the organization they engage with. I see some remarkable differences, and once they come to graduation, 3 years, 4 years down the road, it creates that space to go deep within, that you find that the it thing within you that will define your calling, that will define your being. But I'll turn it over to Kendra.
If I may, I think I'll hand it over to Jessica because I saw her unmute. So I'm gonna let you answer this one, Jessica.
I don't mind at all, but Gemma, the way you just summed that up was actually really spot on. And that's not to say that we don't have a spine in regard to the program content. And there's a lot of reading. So you get a library practically with every module of various readings to explore. But then we very much encourage you to read according to your interests. So that we will highlight, of course, some core readings that are essential to understand a particular angle on consciousness or cognitive neuroscience or mysticism. But what we also then do is to say, okay, here is that library, and what is your interest? And you follow that within reason, because obviously you can go like Alice in Wonderland down the rabbit hole with this, and that can also happen. And then we help you back on track in terms of a steady path through the program. But it is very driven by self-inquiry, shared inquiry, and a sense of what am I called to do? Why am I doing this? What else might it serve as I, later on step out of the program? So there is that developmental trajectory that is built into the program. Yeah, I hope that helps. And Kendra may also well want to pick up on that further.
Yeah, I think the one thing I want us to offer too is that, there are sometimes students, every year, there are students who come into the program who haven't been in university settings for quite some time, or even if you've been in a university setting, you might feel a little bit nervous about, entering in a master's program and, being able to manage the reading, the research, and the writing that's associated with it. We have two specific support people that help with skill development. We have the learning lead, which is, there's the modules, which are theory, content oriented, as Jessica just described, where you'll get that library. We also have these learning skill sessions and some recorded skill sessions where you can develop and learn about critical thinking skills that are really essential to being a scholar at the MSc level. So, regardless of where you're starting with your academic skills, we have, academic skills, reading and writing and researching from a critical lens is an iterative process. So wherever you're entering from, there's something to learn, whether or not you feel highly skilled at it or you feel like there's a lot of growth edges. And so we offer these skills webinars to help grow. And again, there's some foundational things that we offer within those webinars, and you can always sort of find, connect with where your level is and then develop further, knowing where your growth edge is. So we do offer that support. And then we have well-being support, which um, often offers sessions that are oriented around, stress management or time management and, navigating the personal alongside the professional development and scholarly development that's happening within the program. So these are auxiliaries, supports that are within the program, so they're not required, but we highly encourage students to attend those sessions because they usually get a lot of benefit from them in support of the MSc.
Thank you. Hi, Milan. Please go ahead. Thank you for waiting.
Hello, thank you. There are many optional modules that pique my interest, and I remember Nick saying that later on we can take those. So I just wanted to ask how this can be done.
You're talking after you graduate?
Yes,
Very
after.
frequently, our master students come back and take that extra option course they always wanted to do. You just, connect with us. You just fill out the application, enroll, and then you can put your time to one or more of those option courses.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah, sure.
and within the program, both in year one and year two, as Jessica had mentioned, there were the options that are available for the applied transformative psychology. When students take that module, they pick two of those options that they want to take as part of the MSc. But as Nick was mentioning, we often have students that, graduate from the MSc and go, oh, I really wanted to take shamanic psychology, and it just didn't make it quite to my
Yeah.
top two. So I'll take that as after graduation. So students can always come back and you can take additional options if you still are interested in, exploring that topic when you graduate. But essentially you'll take four options altogether across the first year and the second year. And there's set options that are for year one, and there's set options that are for year two. And you'll before choosing the option, you'll get a lot more information, such as like the descriptions, what's the reading that's associated with that topic. So you can, take some time to really consider which one you feel is most aligned with where your passions are while you're in the program.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're happy for you to take the courses. Many of our alumni stay with us, and we're happy that you're part of our family. All right, we've actually passed the top of the hour. I've put in the chat box, just as a convenience, this is the link to the master's application page, all the information, anything you will need, to fill out the application will be there, and I will put my email address. Give me just one moment. There we go. Please contact me. I'm your resource person as you complete your application. Also, take time. Don't rush through it in one day. You're able to save it. You're able to come back and forth with your application. And we're here to work with you. So please stay in contact with us. Any last minute short questions or comments from anybody?
Hi, Nick. I just put something in the chat, or 1 minute before for 6, so hopefully it can be answered still. I saw in the chat already the people already doing amazing things, healers and spiritual counselors. And as far as I understand, this isn't a requirement for admission, right?
Oh,
I'm
no.
onto a lot of things, but not yet professionally.
No. Our students come from a wide spectrum of backgrounds. So you will find people who come from the corporate business community, HR managers, lawyers. In the last few years, we have had a number of lawyers attend the program. We have those who come from performing arts, yoga schools, acting, martial arts. They're doing the physical expression of it. So it's you arriving with your experiences, your interests, and we find it makes for a very lively, energetic cohort because each of you have your own unique profession, aptitude, or vocation. But don't worry we have no prerequisites in those areas.
Okay. Thank you. Great.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Everyone, thank you for attending today. It's always good to see everyone. I have met a number of you in other sessions or by email. It was good to see you here. But again, on behalf of everyone here at Alef Trust, the staff, our alumni, thank you for attending. Please contact me should you have any questions. All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank
Bye.
you.